BGK 24/7 online Christian TV network. Making what was once impossible, possible.
Well, hi. I'm so happy you tuned in today, this week. We are live in our studios. We're at the BGK network with the Ruard channel, dinner table conversations with Dr. Stinson. Listen, as I come on every week, I always want to just say thank you for tuning in to this live broadcast. And yes, we're in the holiday season, so let me not forget to tell everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We are getting ready to change, not from a season, but to a decade. We're getting ready to cross over. And for many of us, that is a wonderful thing. And so, listen, there is a reason for the season because Jesus Christ is born. I have back with us today, and I'm so happy that she's back live with us in our studios, Dr. Monica Lloyd. You heard her last week with her book, I've fallen and I want to get up. But today she has gotten and written another book that I love because it talks about servant leadership. And what I love about this book is she used a very famous movie called Despicable Means. And she says, is there any minions in the house? I couldn't even get past the first chapter when she first gave me the manuscript. But I got past the chapters this time. And Dr. Monica, welcome. Welcome back into our studios. Thank you again. Thank you. Today, I want to talk about your book. Are there any minions? Am I saying it right? In the house.
Yes,
Obtaining the mindset to serve. This is an awesome leadership book. And it's an awesome book on servanthood and an awesome book on how to be a servant. And you use the Despicable Means, but you start off by explaining in this book why this particular, I call it cartoon adventurous movie took you, and you took a book and you made it and you wrote on it. So let's start at the very introduction about what you said about despicable means someone who deserves to be hated and despised. But then you go on and say in Despicable Me there were these yellow organisms known as minions whose sole purpose was to serve their master. They were, I put my glasses on. They were of no use and could not serve. Serving others is an art that one can make into a masterpiece. Oh my God. Why? And tell us about how you took this picture, this Despicable Me and Despicable 2. How did you take this cartoon or animated picture that children would look at and begin to use it as a servant leadership book because of your role?
Well, hello, Apostle Stinson. Thank you for having me back. I'm very honored to be back in your presence and with your listeners. Well, you know, the Lord deals with me different than anything, or he deals with me different. Everybody, as the Lord comes in communion with, has a different relationship. Well, due to the fact I have nieces and I have nephews, they love this movie called Despicable Me. And so while watching it, while they laughing at one thing, I'm watching and viewing and getting a whole new different perspective as it relates to this movie. And so I began to focus not so much on the leader, which is Gru at that time. I looked at his minions. Yes, I looked at his minions, these little yellow organisms that he created to serve him. to
Mm-hmm.
serve him. And I watched how they served him. I watched how they did it with such joy. I watched them how they even thought ahead of what he may need. I watched how
Mm-hmm.
they ran to do whatever he wanted. And I was like, God, if we can
Mm-hmm.
get that concept of servitude in the
Mm-hmm.
kingdom, how awesome we would be as a body of believers
Yes.
serving
Yes.
people we like and don't like. You can still serve
Yes.
anybody at any
Yes.
time.
Yes, yes, yes. And Gru, I think that's his name.
Yes,
He wasn't hard to serve, but he was a little difficult at times. Looking at this picture. But you said that in this book, and I still got to read some of the introduction because I'm hoping we can get to at least some of the stuff. But I just had
yes,
to.
ma'am.
I said minions. You said there's a story in the Bible about the apostles where they are teaching the word of God, and this requires a lot of time. The multiplying of people brought on some complaint and mumbling about widows being overlooked in the distribution of food. And so you added the scripture, which is in Acts, and then you said here the leaders were attended to the assignments as handed them by the word. You go on to say that as minions in the house, it will bring productivity and outstanding hospitality to any business in church. You took this book and you related it both to business and church because you felt in this book that servanthood is across the board. It's just not in the business
It is.
world. It's all
Right.
over. And so you took this and I believe you used this for servant leaders because the book is so geared to being able to lead. You talked about you got to be able to follow before you can lead. And so your first chapter, you says boss versus leader. Mm-hmm. Awesome chapter. Can you give us some
Yes.
snippets of what you meant by boss versus leader? I have the book, but I want you to give it to us.
I have the book too. I have to,
Uh-huh.
boss versus lead. Now, let me tell you all this just real quickly. You can tell the difference between a boss and you can tell the difference between a leader. Jesus was a
Okay.
leader. He was a
Okay.
leader. He was not a
Mm-hmm.
boss. He was a leader.
Mm-hmm.
A boss tells you what to do, but does not do it with you. That's a
Okay.
boss.
Mm-hmm.
A boss
Wow.
tells you what to do, but does
Mm-hmm.
not do it with you.
And what do you
That's a
mean by that?
boss.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they would give you the plan, they would give you the vision, they would give you what outcomes they want, they give you the goals and all of that, but they won't work with you to accomplish it.
Right.
They won't work
Right.
with you to accomplish it.
Right. Right.
Whereas with a leader, there's with
Mm-hmm.
a boss, what a boss says is, I need you all to do this. I need you
Mm-hmm.
all to handle this. I need this to be done by such and such a time. I need
Mm-hmm.
this. With
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a leader would say,
Right.
let
Mm-hmm.
us go and do this. Let us
Mm-hmm.
go and do that. With Jesus and
Mm-hmm.
his disciples, let us go to this town. Let us go to this town. We must
Mm-hmm.
need go by Samaria. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I, as a leader, they will do it with you and they will show you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
distinguish between a boss and a leader.
So you said something so profound there. You said a boss would say a leader would say let us, but a boss would say just do, you know, and they
Do.
won't even get involved. That is so profound. And so when you talk about the boss versus the leader, you talk about appointed to serve a villain. I said, ooh, ooh, ooh. I said, okay. And so when I read this chapter, let me give you what I underlined. You said,
Okay.
Gur is known as a villain, one who hated, one who is hated and despised. Do you know any villains? Or should I say someone who is categorized as a villain? Ah, you said, either way, you have been appointed to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
is it difficult to serve a group?
It can be if your
Mhm.
mindset doesn't change. Let me put it to
Okay.
you like that. It can
Okay.
be very challenging, but it's
Hmm.
not impossible. Let me
Okay.
say that again. It
Mhm.
can be challenging, but
Mhm.
not impossible. Because what you have to realize when you serve a group, you serving a
Mhm.
group because you like the group, not so much the
Mhm.
group likes you. Okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't mind serving the group because you know what you can do for him or her. You know what you can provide for him or her. And they may kick you, they may buck against you, they may not like you or whatever. But if you have been positioned to be there, you got to go and do the service that you're
Mhm.
able to provide. So once
Okay.
again, it can be challenging, but it's not
Mhm.
impossible.
Can you give us some examples? Have you ever been in nursing, being in business, being in the environments that you're in? Can you give us some examples? Have you had some grooves in your environments,
Oh
both
yeah.
in church world and have this book been helpful as you wrote it? And how have you served them?
I wrote it because I have experienced it. I experienced
Okay.
it both in corporate America, and I've had
Mhm.
leaders that were
Mhm.
challenging. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
they are villain, but they were challenging, apostle. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
at my place of employment, I had
Mhm.
difficult managers and supervisors and bosses, one in particular I recall, and we're best friends today because I knew how to serve her with my silence. Let me say that.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's in the book.
I
That's in the
learned
book.
to serve her with
Mhm.
my silence. She didn't need to hear my opinion all the time. She did not need to. She was a boss. Do what I say do, not
Mhm.
as I do. Do as
Mhm.
I say do. That's what bosses want you to do as I tell you to do. And you
Mhm.
got to know that you need to do what they tell you to do to the best
Okay.
of your ability, without attitude, without resentment, without rebellion, without your mouth. They don't
Oh
need all
wow.
that. They
Okay.
don't need all that. Just do the job. Do the
Mhm.
job at
Mhm.
hand that I've told you to do. I've had
Mhm.
kingdom leaders that would tell you the same thing. I mean, kingdom bosses that would tell you, do what I tell you to do. Because me, once upon a time, being a very opinionated woman, and not
Ooh.
I feeling like I had to always get my point across. You needed to
Uh-huh.
hear from me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But through
Uh-huh.
my growth and development, thanks be unto God, I give God the glory. Through my growth
Uh-huh.
and development, I learned that I can serve without being heard.
Okay. Oh wow. Now you just said something there. You have learned that you can serve without being heard. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
let's pause there. Is that difficult to learn how to serve without being heard? Because in the end, God is the one that does the elevation. And he says that he sees all and he knows all. And if it gets too overbearing, when you've learned to serve without listening, it doesn't mean that you're not praying, but you're
Right.
listening for what God is doing and how you need to handle that situation. You mentioned that in your book, that one of the things that we need to do as servant leaders, that we need to learn how to serve without listening. I mean, serve and just listen. So when you say that, Dr. Monica, what biblical, you use several biblical, but what biblical character really drew you to that type of leadership, servant leadership?
What kind of to serving to without being heard? You know, a lot of
Mhm.
times, even David and King Saul, I'm now that
Right.
that could be
Mhm.
considered serving a villain. You
That's
know what I'm
right.
saying? David really
Mhm.
could have said, Saul he's difficult. He's
It's
difficult.
difficult.
This man is
Yep.
trying to kill me.
Right.
He
Right.
My
Right.
leader is
Mhm.
trying to kill me. And God
Right.
is like, don't you move. Don't you I
Mhm.
know what he's doing, but don't you budge. You stay in
Mhm.
position. You stay put.
Mhm.
I'll let you know when it's time to run and escape. But you
Mhm.
stay put. And David
Mhm.
learned to serve him to the point that when he ran away from him and his king wind up in the cave where he was because he knew
Mhm.
God said, touch not my anointed and do him no harm. David said,
Mhm.
I'm just going to cut off a piece of his robe just to let him know I could have killed you. I could
Uh-huh.
have killed
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
so he
Mhm.
even knew then, in the midst of his servitude, as he was running away, I'm still going to serve him effectively. I'm going to
Mhm.
do what I'm supposed to do. And he went to
Mhm.
Saul and told him, you know
Mhm.
what? I could have killed you when you was right in the midst of the cave with me. I could have did it without any harm. But I want to let you know I'm not here to do you any harm. You got to learn how to serve your leaders without trying to do them any harm. I
Wow.
feel
And
that,
so
Apostle.
I do too. And doing them any harm is keeping gossip off of them, keeping gossip out of
Yes,
your mouth, and not allowing
yes,
others to gossip about your leaders. Because the Bible is very clear, touch not my anointing and do my prophet no harm. But it's also clear that he will take care of the leader, okay? That we aren't to touch them. And so when you learn how to serve a villain, or we often say, I'm leaving the church because they're not paying any attention to me. I'm doing this because they're not paying attention to me. Or I'm leaving I had that incident today, and I just said, well, what is it that you want us to do? When you're wrong, you're wrong. And we have to do some correction here. It does not mean that when a leader corrects you that they don't love you, but it only means
that's
that they
right.
place you and respect you so much and love you so much so that they know your potential. Okay. And so in the next chapter, you said you've been hired. You've been hired,
Hired.
appointed
You're
to
hired to do the
serve.
job.
You've been hired to do the job. We don't like those words because when we're hired, we want to be hired to a higher position. And so servanthood is very hard for the body of Christ. Now we can serve a little while, okay, but don't let it be too long because then we get so antsy because we feel we have so much in us that we need to be in our casas and we need to be up on the pulpit and all of that. But the Bible is very clear. Jesus said, I did not come to be served, but I came to serve.
To
And
serve.
a
I can
point of
serve.
servanthood is when you get to a point of servanthood, God says that your gifts will make room for you, but you got to first
It
learn how
will.
to serve. Okay.
Yes, you do. You
So
got to learn how to serve. You do.
And you got to learn how to serve leaders who themselves may not know how to serve and who themselves may have some issues. But you talk about that village and you say, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Now, when you wrote this chapter, you said sidebar, servants are never concerned with what they need, only with what is needed for the server.
Yes.
Bound on that a little bit. Servants are never concerned about what they need. Servers never concerned with what they need, only with what is needed for the server. Learning to enjoy what you do goes beyond watching who you serve. It should be a job that is exciting. It is accomplishing the goal that creates and embellish with your soul. Your happiness cannot be based on people, for if it does, you have already failed. People are not perfect, and neither are you. Let's talk a little bit about that.
In the movie Despicable Me, the
Mm-hmm.
minions were willing and wanting to serve Gru. You got to
Mm-hmm.
learn to serve with your most other instrument of your body that your leader takes
Mm-hmm.
and use mostly for their service is your hands. It's your
Right.
hands. It's your
Mm-hmm.
hands carrying their bags. It's your
Mm-hmm.
hands carrying whatever they may have need of. It's your hands making sure that they be held up. It's your hands that give
Mm-hmm.
them the service that is required for them. A good example that I used also in the book was a caddy. There's a
Yes.
caddy that goes
Mm-hmm.
on the court. There's two different kind of leaders. There's a caddy that goes on the court with the golfer. There's a caddy
Right.
that stands on the sidelines and comes whenever the golfer tells him to come.
Right.
But whatever
Right.
that golfer needs, that caddy has.
Right.
Hear me.
Right.
Whatever
Right.
that golfer needs, that caddy
Mm-hmm.
has. And he has
Right.
observed his golfer as very
Right.
good and you uniquely. When he needs a certain golf club, he
Yes.
knows
Yes.
exactly what club to give him. He
Yes.
knows
Yes.
exactly what to give him when he needs it. Even if the golfer sometimes wonder, what kind of club should I need? The caddy will come up to him and say, this will work for you.
Mhm.
Here you
Mhm.
go. You can have this. And that's what you should be
Mhm.
doing for your leader. Sometimes your leader may be, I'm using kingdom leaders right now, be caught up in the spirit, not sure what they
Mhm.
may need at the time, but because you
Mhm.
serve them so well, you be like, here's a towel. Drink
Mhm.
some water.
Mhm.
Let me
Mhm.
move this out your way. Let me get this cord out your way because I don't want you to trip and fall. You're
Mhm.
observant. And
Mhm.
you're doing all of this once again with what? Your hands. Your
Right.
hands play a vital point, a vital effort in making sure that you serve your leaders effectively.
Wow, wow. That, oh my God, that is good. Listen, if you just tuned in, we are listening to Dinner Table Conversations with Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson on BGK Network. And I am Apostle Stinson, and we are just so happy you come in. Listen, if you have not downloaded our BGK mobile app, please do so from any Apple store, any Google store. So if you're on the go, you can listen to us on the go, get us on any mobile device, get us anywhere. But we're just happy that you have come into our studios to listen to us. Today I have this phenomenal woman, and we're talking about servant leadership, something that many people don't want to talk about. They don't want to acknowledge because nobody wants to serve. So Monica, Dr. Monica, why is it that nobody wants to serve? And in this book, you talk about those minions who was willing to do whatever they needed to do to please Guru, as I call them. So why
Yes,
is it that
yes.
today we don't want to serve? Why is it that we don't want to be in a servant position? Why do we have to have all these titles and things like that? One of the things that the minions didn't have is they were all servants. I didn't see any names unless I missed them. That they had a name here and a name here and a name there. But I read, so I said, okay, they were just called minions. And so they didn't have no names. They were all equal servants, servant grew. Why is it that the body can't do that today?
Because the body is selfish. The body is selfish. Nobody wants to work behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to be on stage.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
not the place for everybody. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
everybody's on stage, who's taking care of the lights? Who's taking care of the
Mm-hmm.
sound system? Who's taking care of the
Mm-hmm.
speakers? Who's making
Mm-hmm.
sure that all the cords are out the way? Who's making sure that somebody answers the door? See, everybody can't be on the stage. Everybody can't be on the stage. There will come a point in time if you serve well. Hear me. If you serve well, God may open up that door for you to enter through an entrance to be on the stage. But you first got to follow in order to learn how to serve. And so, therefore, don't be so anxious to get ahead of what you're not supposed to be positioned into. Wait until the
Mm-hmm.
appointed time. But to answer your
Mm-hmm.
question, like I'm going back to what I said, they selfish, they
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
self-willed.
Because the first thing that God says when he chose the fishermen, he says, follow me. That means that we
Follow
have
me.
to learn to follow first. Okay. And not only that, I think in one of your books, it may not be this one, but you said it in one of the books I read, is that following means you got to learn to be submissive. Okay, you've got to submit to somebody, and I'm tired of nobody. Nobody wants to submit. Nobody wants to be
Wow.
submissive. It's not about your husband thing. It's about being submissive. We have to learn to submit to authority, submit to correction, submit to our
Yes.
mentors and our coaching. We don't want to
Yes.
be submissive, and we don't want to submit to nobody. How can you learn if you're not covered by somebody? Can you answer that? Because this is servant leadership.
You can't learn unless you're covered by somebody. A student cannot learn unless they have a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never became a nurse if I didn't have a teacher that I would be listened to or be submissive to.
Mm-hmm.
And only thing is with submit only means this: allow, as like yielding. I allow you to go ahead of me. I allow you to
Mm-hmm.
go. That's all
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. You're
Mm-hmm.
yielding. It's just like you merging onto the expressway. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna slow down so this car can merge on in. Because if you don't, both of us gonna wind up having an accident. And so
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
can't right. That can't be the case. We can't have an accident. Somebody got to give. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, if you got someone that's over you, because you will have someone over you, my husband's over me, I'm over my
Mm-hmm.
children. And so,
Mm-hmm.
therefore, we got to learn to yield to what God has placed over us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
only for our protection and it's only for our growth.
Oh wow! I knew we were gonna get to this, but this book I will tell everyone: if you're in a servant leadership position, you need to get this book and teach it in your churches or in your ministry. Dr. Lloyd, can you please tell them how to get this book as on servant leadership?
Hello, everybody. Once again, thank you, Apostle, for having me. You can go to www.drmonicalloyd.com, which is my website. You can email me at drmonicalloyd@gmail.com. I'm on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Dr. Monica Lloyd. Feel free to use any of those avenues to get in touch with me.
Well, Dr. Lloyd, I thank you for coming on to the Rural Channel, hosted by BGK. I, as your host, you have been a wonderful featured guest. I can't wait for this show to appear. God bless you. Listen, you have been listening to Apostle Dr. Sonia Stinson on Dinner Table Conversations on BGK on the Rural Channel. We are so happy that you have tuned in today. We don't take it lightly. Before we tune off, we want to say again, happy holidays. If you need to reach out to me, please call me at 866-200-9850. Again, that's 1-866-200-9850. Or you can hit me up on my website at SoniaStinsonMinistries.com, or feel free to email me at SoniaStinsonMinistries@gmail. Until next time, I'm so happy. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and I will see you in our live studios next week.
Matthew House comes from the scripture of Matthew 25:35. I was a stranger and you took me in. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was in prison and you came to visit me. That's how we developed Matthew House. 3 African American men who had the compassion and the love of people, who are all veterans. My name is Dr. Sonia Rickett Stinson, and I am the Executive Director and the CEO of Matthew House.
Right now we're in the common room, which is also named as the day room. This is where most of our clients eat during the daytime. This is where they can watch TV. This is where they can socialize.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Dickens. I work as a nurse practitioner and one of the providers at Heartland Alliance Health. So here, Heartland Alliance has a number of outreach sites around the city, so linkage agreements with certain sites where we take our typical outpatient clinic model and bring it in to specific outreach sites, Matthew House being one of them.
Or they can go and get their public entitlement benefits, or helping with a storage bid, supplying the blankets, or supplying the toiletries. Cleaning supplies is something we take for granted. All the things that we have to get done. There's building maintenance that we have to take care of. There's the supported service at the program staff who have to definitely be here from 12 hours a day in order that the individuals are not in the heat and they're not in the cold. So we need your help. We need your financial support.
We need volunteers. You can go to our website at MatthewHouseChicago.org. There's a donation button, but most of all, we need funds. We need all that we can get to fix this building because these people need a place to be.
And I'm glad I'm here, and I will continue to be here until I'm not here anymore.